YouTube, what's good? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Rob Cam, and welcome back to the Rob Cam Show. And this one, we definitely got another reaction video coming from Wrestle with Andy. You know, one of my favorite people to watch before I even started reacting to wrestling. And his best of WrestleMania, greatest WrestleMania moments. It's almost WrestleMania. We got what, about 2 weeks or something like that away from WrestleMania. Let me see. We got this is March 31st, so we got what, 2 weeks? So we got 2 weeks left until WrestleMania. Today is Monday, by the way. Raw came on a little earlier, so I might give a little Raw review if I because it's over now. If it ended at 5:30 or 6:23 on the East Coast. Might give my little Raw review. Go watch that, recap that a little bit tomorrow, if I do decide so. But yes, welcome back to the channel. Subscribe to the channel, you know, do that thing, leave a like on the video. Let's go for a like goal of 10 likes on this video. Let's try to get 10 likes to this video. As always, subscribe to the channel. Wrestle with Andy, all his info is in the description if you want to check out his channel. You know, subscribe to Rob Cam, and let's get straight into the
Ever
video.
since its inception in 1985, WrestleMania has been by far and away the biggest show in all of wrestling, the point where prior years' worth of storylines usually climax. Obviously then, this has meant there have been a lot of iconic moments and matches to take place there, moments and matches befitting the moniker of the granddaddy of them all. But what are the biggest and best of these? Well, that's exactly what we want to look at right now, starting with the most recent example, the time Cody Rhodes finished the story at WrestleMania 40. You all remember this one, we're sure. After all, it was only 1 year ago that the American Nightmare was able to create what will probably go down as the defining moment of this era of WWE when he beat Roman Reigns to become undisputed WWE Universal Champion. Why?
Hey, I'm not gonna lie, last year, I ain't gonna lie, the past two WrestleManias has been fire. I'm not gonna lie. For 39 and 40, they were fire, bro.
Was this such
39 stage was fire though. That LA stage, that shit was tough.
a big moment? Well, because the build to it had been so long and eventful. Let's not forget that it was way back in the summer of 2020 that Roman Reigns first started his
One more thing, and I wish John Cena, I wish everything that's happened with Cena now happened at 39. You know why? Because if he had won that title at WrestleMania at 39, if you leave in the comments below of why you think I wanted John Cena to win at 39 in LA, like, dude, let me see if y'all really wrestling fans. Let's see if y'all can pinpoint what I'm trying to get at with that one.
run on top when he won the Universal title from Bray Wyatt. And from that point onwards, he and the Bloodline would go on to absolutely dominate WWE TV for the next 4 years. Sure, occasionally there would be someone who looked like he might beat the Tribal Chief, but whenever a Drew McIntyre or a Sami Zayn got close, they ultimately failed. Hell, even Cody himself would fall the first time when he tried to beat the champ at WrestleMania 39. Come the next year, though, there would be no such mistakes, as this time, with the help of not only Jey Uso, but John Cena, Seth Rollins, and The Undertaker too, the grandson of a plumber would finally pull off the impossible by toppling Roman. Needless to say then, this was a cathartic moment for fans watching, and one of the greatest moments in this modern era. So big of a moment would it be, in fact, it would turn Cody into the undisputed face of the company, with him still holding on to that WWE title as of the time of this video's recording. And it would allow WWE to have their biggest gate in history at nearly $40 million, so by all metrics, it was a blow-away success. But it's not the only time a big babyface win at the Showcase of the Immortals has led to great things for WWE, as the exact same thing would happen decades prior in 1998 when Stone Cold Steve Austin won his first world title at WrestleMania 14. Yes, this one may be an even bigger deal than Cody finishing the story, as during the late 90s there was no one in the entire industry who was hotter than Steve Austin. Hell, even now, almost 30 years on, there's still never been anyone who's been quite that over. And the reason he was so over was because, as the great anti-hero of his time, the Rattlesnake was just about the coolest guy on the planet to fans watching. But then how could he not be when he was causing absolute mayhem on a weekly basis on Monday Night Raw, going after whoever he pleased, whenever he pleased, even if that person just so happened to be his boss, Vince McMahon.
Vince does not know how to take a
Honestly, it was
stunner
impossible to not be behind this guy, even when he was supposed to be the heel. The only thing he'd yet to do by the time early 1998 came around, in fact, was win the WWF title. And that would all begin to change after he came out victorious in the Royal Rumble in January of that year. Yes, now Stone Cold had earned himself a shot at then champion Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 14. And to make matters better, the special guest enforcer for that bout was going to be none other than Iron Mike Tyson, meaning a much larger audience than normal was going to be watching. Would Austin be able to take advantage of this? Yes, he would.
Stunner!
And after dispatching of HBK, all with a little help from Tyson, of course, he'd go on to usher WWF into its second boom period, the period known as the Attitude Era. Really then, for historical significance alone, this one has to be included in today's video, as it's the point WWE fully got started with their most popular mainstream period ever.
Still don't know
and
how
it
to
all
take a
happened
stunner.
because Steve Austin was able to win the title. But that wasn't the origin of Steve Austin as a big-time babyface. No, the origin
Hey,
of
that
it
rattlesnake shirt is fire. If anybody know any good ventures like wrestling tees, bro, please, that shit was fire.
This would come 1 year prior when he faced off against Bret Hart at WrestleMania 13 in an all-timer of a submission bout. Yes, let's rewind for a second and give a bit of a backstory. Back in late 1996 and early 1997,
I was
Bret Hart was still the
non-existent. Wait,
biggest
you said
babyface
97? I was
WWF
existent.
had. And the reason for this was because he represented everything that was good and true about being a star athlete who fans could look up to. Meanwhile, on the flip side to this, there was Stone Cold Steve Austin, one of the company's top heels on account of his take-no-prisoners attitude and habit of screwing over everyone around him. But while this led to the pair having a great babyface versus heel bout at Survivor Series 1996, after that something strange happened. Fans started switching their allegiances. Why were they doing this? Well, because by that point we were entering the era of South Park and Eminem, the era of the anti-hero. And so suddenly, the Hitman's babyface theatrics felt a little passé, and the Rattlesnake's behavior felt cool. And this would all play into the story of the pair's rematch at WrestleMania 13, as here, the idea was that Bret wanted to expose Austin for the charlatan that he was by making him submit right in the middle of the ring. Cut to the match then, and the atmosphere was electric, not just because of the story going in, but because of the quality of work on display
this rivalry
here.
to? That's
And
Bret
what put the
versus
bow
Stone
on the
Cold.
whole
What
thing
can you
was the
compare that
ending
to
where,
modern
after
day?
refusing to tap out to the sharpshooter
if I had
and
to
instead
say
passing out
Bret
as a
and
result
CM
of
Punk
blood
to me,
loss, Austin
Stone
would technically
Cold?
lose, but would be formally turned babyface in spite of this.
That might be CM Punk too. It's like two CM Punks come together and made CM Punk. I mean, Bret and Stone Cold came together and made CM Punk one entity. Like, I'm like, who could I compare Stone Cold? I'm like, wait, it would still be CM Punk. Who can I compare? CM Punk. Bret. Bret kind of like Seth, without all the flamboyant like dressing and shit like that. But I would compare him to CM Punk too. They both kind of.
As for Bret, well, he continued to beat
CM
down on
Punk's
his opponent after the
inspiration.
bell had rung, making him the undeniable heel going forward. But this was far from Bret Hart's only great WrestleMania moment over the years. Hell, he's had plenty of them. And one of these is our next entry, in fact, the night he won the world title at WrestleMania 10. Of course, WrestleMania
Bret
10
Hart
was
still
about
got
more
all
than
his
just
hair
winning
to
the
this
world
day.
title for the Hitman, though, because this was the night
That's
he
legendary,
famously
too,
pulled
in
double
itself.
duty. And the way he did this was by starting things out going one-on-one with his brother Owen in a true Matt classic. Why were the Hart siblings fighting here? Well, because in the months leading up to the show, dissension had started to drive a wedge between them as Owen became increasingly jealous of his older brother's success. So it was then that to open the show on March 20th, 1994, the two would battle it out, with the King of Hearts shocking everyone here by getting the clean win. But that wasn't the end of the night for Bret. No, as a result of him being the co-winner of the Royal Rumble with Lex Luger just 2 months earlier, when both men eliminated each other at the same time, he'd be the
I don't know about that one. It looked like Bret kind of went over. You know what I'm saying? It looked like Bret hit the floor first. I'm just saying. Couldn't really get a good angle. This is not like John Cena Batista. They literally hit the floor at the same exact, like, no matter how much you slow that video, they literally, boom, same time. Like,
the second man to face Yokozuna for
You
the
cannot
WWF title that
like,
evening. And unlike
what?
Lex, when the Excellence
cannot
of
even do that
Execution
shit.
faced off against Yoko in the main event, he'd beat him, with this allowing him to start his second reign on top. That said, he couldn't celebrate too much because as he did, Owen appeared at the entranceway to remind everyone he had a win over his brother and so deserved the first shot at the belt. That's right, as one night stories go, this is pretty high on the list, and it fully solidified Bret Hart as the guy in WWF for the next couple of years. But he's not the only person who had to do double duty at WrestleMania and end the night as champion, because exactly 20 years later, the same thing would happen to Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 30. Yes, we all remember this one as it was such a ray of brilliance and a great
I would compare him to Bret too, I ain't gonna lie.
underdog story. And no one better personified the underdog in 2013 and 2014 than Daniel Bryan, an overwhelming fan favorite and one of the greatest to ever lace up a pair of boots, who was trying everything to make it to the top, all while Vince McMahon was never a fan of smaller wrestlers his size. Obviously, though, fans didn't care about the American Dragon's size. No, all they cared about was the fact that he was their guy. And that's exactly why, for months prior to WrestleMania 30, they'd be drowning out shows with yes chants as they demanded the Aberdeen native get his shot at the gold. And all this would reach a breaking point when, at the 2014 Royal Rumble, Bryan wasn't even entered into the match, causing the live crowd to reject what they were seeing. What was the solution to this fan backlash? Well, it was obvious. Have Daniel win the WWE title at WrestleMania 30. But Vince McMahon continued to reject this at first, all until the fans changed his mind. That's right, after the backlash got too loud, at WrestleMania 30, Daniel Bryan would begin the evening by beating Triple H clean in the middle of the ring, with this booking him a spot in the main event for the WWE title, along with Randy Orton and Batista. Where would he go from here? Well, in the main event of the evening, he'd beat both of the former Evolution
members. And shout out to Batista, man. I heard that Batista was the one that said, yo, he'll be the one to take the L. Like, he was rooting for Daniel to. So shout out to Batista. I know a lot of people think Batista is an asshole. He's not. Batista one of them guys, bro. Shout out to Batista, because if it wasn't for him, like, Vince would have been like, he literally said, yo, let him tap me out. I'll take the one to be the one to take the L, be the one to be in the middle ring to top out. Like, shout out to Batista, because he didn't have to do that.
Members single-handedly to win the big one. And that meant fans finally got the moment they were hoping for, but didn't actually dare to believe would happen. All of this is to say, it was an all-time great moment, so much so that it's still talked about regularly to this day. But what of the flip side to the Yes movement? The time Daniel Bryan played the heel to another underdog babyface trying to get their moment? Well, that would come a few years later at WrestleMania 35 when Kofi Mania ran wild. Yes, if WrestleMania 30 was the moment the American Dragon was the one everyone wanted to see win, then WrestleMania 35 was the moment everyone wanted to see him lose. And the reason for that was because this was the year he was standing on the other side of the ring from Kofi Kingston. Why had Kofi Kingston suddenly become everyone's favorite babyface in early 2019? Well, because after years of being locked away in the mid-card, he'd finally broken out after a star-making performance at the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. So because he broke out so much then, original plans to have Kevin Owens face Daniel Bryan for the WWE title were scrapped, and instead, Kofi was put in that spot, though...
We were supposed to be... Wait, what? We were supposed to get KO versus Bryan? What? And we was supposed to get... What? Damn, that's tough. Because on the flip side... I wouldn't mind seeing KO win the WWE Championship, but then it's like Kofi never got his opportunity with KO though. I still, to this day, I got a list of people that I want to be champion. Kevin Owens need a proper title reign again, like a proper title reign. I don't give a fuck. Sami Zayn need a title run. Xavier Woods needs an IC title run or something. Let's just start there. He don't need like like the main like the world title run. Who else? Besides, I'm trying to think. Who else I want to see? Randy. We could get Randy one more time with the title. Drew. Oh my God. How can I? Drew Blood Clot McIntyre. Yeah, I said it like that. McIntyre definitely needed. Drew definitely need another title run, bro. I'm sorry. Who else needs a title run? Seth is good. He had one recently. Gunther is the champion now. We give Jay might win at WrestleMania. I don't know about that. Let's give Carmelo Hayes a little mid-card title run with something. LA Knight. Oh, yo. Finn Balor. Oh, now the names is Flutter. LA Knight, Finn Balor, definitely two names. Damian Priest, we could get him one more time with a title run. It don't gotta be right now, but eventually down the line, because he just lost it last year. There's a couple people I feel like need a proper title run. Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Finn Balor, Drew McIntyre. and maybe Kofi Kingston or Xavier Woods in the future, especially Woods in the future, maybe for like a IC title run. And Kofi, maybe if this Hill thing works out, maybe we could get him in the world title picture as a single. I think New Day should have ended as a group. Like, I have mixed emotions about New Day right now. Like, New Day is good right now, but I feel like it's just time for these two to go on their own. I don't know if Big E is ever going to come back because there's rumors that his neck is just done. So it's hard to tell, but yeah.
Not before he had to overcome a number of trials put in front of him by Vince McMahon. But once he did this, all with a little help from his New Day stablemates Big E and Xavier Woods, he was all ready to head into the biggest show of the year and realize his dream. The only question left then was, would he be able to do this, or would the threat of the American Dragon be too much to overcome? And that was answered at the midway point of the show. This was when, after an emotional battle which lasted for just under 24 minutes, Kingston would dethrone the champ. But let's move away from things that have happened in the last decade and go a bit further back in time, way back to the 80s in fact, as that's where we'll find our next entry. The time WWF packed out the Pontiac Silverdome for WrestleMania 3 with a classic main event pitting Hulk Hogan against Andre the Giant. That's right, if we're talking about iconic moments to take place at WrestleMania, then there are few that can stand on the same level as this. In many ways, this was the OG iconic moment the Showcase of the Immortals ever gave us. And that's because while WrestleMania 1 and 2 certainly had some big moments, it really was the showdown for the ages between the two biggest stars of the time that cemented this as the premier event in the wrestling calendar. What led up to it happening? Well, in the weeks and months prior to the show, Andre began acting a little more aggressively toward his friend Hogan, with this probably being a result of Bobby the Brain Heenan getting in his ear and convincing him he was the one who really should be champion. After all, he was the one who'd gone undefeated for so many years prior. So if anyone should be standing on top of the mountain, it should be the Frenchman. And that all led to Andre deciding to challenge the Hulkster for the gold on an episode of Piper's Pit, leaving the champ with little option but to accept and put his belt on the line in front of 78,000 people in Detroit. Of course, you all know what happened after that. The match delivered in terms of the spectacle people were expecting. And it all climaxed with Hogan delivering the body slam heard round the world, all before pinning the Giant for the 1, 2, 3.
Leg drop.
Even this many years on, you could make a strong argument that the Hogan-Andre showdown is the best moment in WrestleMania history. It certainly has to rank up there as one of the most important matches.
Why the hell is he curling like that? Y'all see that? Well, like, bro, you're jacked, bro. And I'm pretty sure those are like 25s. Like, you shouldn't look like you're struggling to curl. That's them steroids,
to ever
boy.
happen on that
Yeah.
show, and one of the biggest pop culture moments the industry has ever given us. But what about our next subject, the John Cena and The Rock series at WrestleMania 28 and 29? Of course, this one was never meant to be a two-match affair initially. No, originally it was supposed to be one and done. And the build for that one-time bout started as far back as WrestleMania 27. This was the show where, while making a long-awaited return as the special guest host of the event, Dwayne Johnson decided to screw Big Match John out of the victory during the main event between him and The Miz. Needless to say then, Cena was not happy about this, and that was exactly why the next night on Raw, he'd challenged the Great One to a singles match at WrestleMania for the year following. As to how this match would go, well, great, and it would certainly deliver on getting fans interested. So interesting would they be, in fact, it would garner the most pay-per-view buys any WWE show had ever done with 1.1.
You guys think about what we got right now with these two, how this ties into all that. Yo, bro, wrestling is so fun.
1 million. And while most people assumed the ending here would be John getting the win as the torch was passed to him, in the end, it would be Rocky who came out on top. Really, though, there was a reason for this, with the reason being that at some point along the way, WWE had decided to make this a two-match series, with the second return bout happening a year after that again at WrestleMania 29. This time, though, in order to bump up the stakes, the WWE title would be on the line, as The Rock would manage to beat CM Punk for that at the Royal Rumble only a couple of months before the show. And that made John Cena all the more determined to get the win by the time the bell rang, as he knew this was his chance to not only get his career back on track by beating the former face of the company, but also by regaining that gold he held so dear to him. And Cena would win here, and the torch would officially be passed, with this in many ways marking the end of the Cena era, as by the time WrestleManias 30 and 31 came around, it would be all about Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns, respectively. Not that they would be the only two people to headline WrestleMania in the years following, though. No, at WrestleMania 35, in fact, on the same night that Kofi Mania ran wild, history would be made in another way when for
Don't get no more shit when I say this shit, bro. Why is Roman's eyes so light back then, but his eyes don't look like I'm not even trying to be on no weird shit. I know contact color shit like that exists, but was he wearing that back then? That's what I'm trying to figure out, because his eyes don't look like that bright. At least I'm not really paying attention. But I remember one time I had to really I saw an old picture and I'm like, yo, why his eyes so bright? Like that. And then I look, and now it's his eyes are not even, his eyes are regular eyes.
First time ever, the women main evented the biggest show of the year. Yes, for decades prior, women had always been treated like a lower card act, but come the mid-2010s, there was a change in the air, and that change was being led by 4 women: Sasha Banks, Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, and Bayley. Sure, not all 4.
I know I'm not tripping. Look, somebody even did it. No, I'm not tripping. If y'all can see this shit, I probably can't. So somebody actually did it. They got him with the blue eyes right here, and then his eyes now his regular. I'm not tripping. My son's eyes is regular. That's not yo, bro, how his eyes used to be so light and now they're brown? They're brown. What the hell? My son was wearing contacts back then? Shit, ain't mother see me starting popping out some blue eyes.
4 of these ladies would get to be part of such a
hazel,
historic moment as
little
the
hazel,
first
not
women's
blue,
main event
little
in
hazel
WrestleMania
eyes.
history, but 2 of them would.
Me,
and they wouldn't be the only ones involved either, as the third part of the
I know that's
equation
mad
would be
random,
former UFC bantamweight.
I know it's mad random what I just said, but I know I was not tripping, bro.
Champion Ronda Rousey. Yes, the build to this one started when at Survivor Series 2018, the planned match between Ronda and Becky Lynch had to be called off when Becky suffered a concussion. So instead, it would be Charlotte Flair who took the man's spot, and that left the door open for the original bout everyone had really wanted to see to take place on the grandest stage of them all. Of course, by the time we got there, though, Charlotte would have also added herself to the mix, making the whole thing a 3-way, and this would mean that when things hit the ring that night, both the Raw and SmackDown women's titles would be on the line. Who won this one? Becky Lynch, of course. She was far too over in 2019 to not come out the victor, and that gave her an honor no one else could ever replicate, being the first woman to win a WrestleMania main event. Really, it was a hell of an achievement, and one the crowd were happy to see. But that's not the greatest achievement in WrestleMania history. No, if we want to find something even more historic, we have to look to our next entry, The Undertaker's WrestleMania undefeated streak. It started back at WrestleMania 7, way back in 1991. That was when The Undertaker made his WrestleMania debut against Superfly Jimmy Snuka. Obviously, then it wouldn't take long for the Dead Man to dispatch of his opponent that night, and that allowed him to move on to WrestleMania 8 1 year later, where he did the same thing with Jake the Snake Roberts. Where would he go from here? Giant Gonzalez, King Kong Bundy, Diesel, they all met the same fate. In fact, by the time we got to WrestleMania 18 in 2002, Mark Calloway had gone 10-0. And this was the point the WWE realized they had a thing as they started marketing the streak as an event, something in which every year someone new would step up to the Phenom in order to try to get the better of him. That said, no one ever would. No, whether it was Shawn Michaels, Randy Orton, Triple H.
Those people, I did a video somewhere on the chat. Those people that they said no to beating him? They were no.
Or anyone else. Everyone always failed to beat The Undertaker at the biggest show of the year. And that led to things eventually reaching a staggering 21-0, a record which will never again be replicated.
I feel like Bray
Ultimately, though, this was where things would end, because in one of the biggest shockers in wrestling history, it would be at WrestleMania 30 that Brock Lesnar did what no one else thought was possible. He'd beat The Undertaker and put an end to the streak. Really, it can't be overstated how seismic of a moment this was for wrestling fans, as it truly meant the end of an era which had lasted for the entirety of some of their lives. But let's move away from decades-long arcs for now and onto a very specific moment from a very specific year for a second, the moment that Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels went 60 minutes at WrestleMania 12. Yes, one of the most famous WrestleMania events in history, as it featured a masterpiece of timing, pacing, and is the pinnacle of what each man was able to achieve as a wrestler. That's right, if you were a WWF fan back in 1996, you were watching this one as it was pitting the 2 best wrestlers in the company in the kind of match you'd be more likely to see in 80s Jim Crockett Promotions. What did this mean come the end then? Well, it would mean a sudden death overtime would be required. And it was during this overtime that HBK was able to hit 2 Sweet Chin musics in order to finally pick up the win. And for that reason, it's still talked about fondly by so many to this day, with many still considering it to be both Bret and Shawn's high watermark, even more so than Austin versus Bret from WrestleMania 13 or Undertaker versus Shawn from WrestleMania 25. But that's not the only time two guys hit the peak on the same night, as our next entry is all about the time both John Cena and Batista ascended to the mountaintop at WrestleMania 21. Yes, if you're a fan of the Ruthless Aggression era, then you'll remember that arguably the two biggest stars of that period were John Cena and Dave Batista. And that's why it's so interesting then to think about the fact that both these men would win their first world titles on the exact same night. How did they manage to do this? Well, it wasn't long after the first brand extension began, and so both Raw and SmackDown had their own top prizes, the World Heavyweight Championship and the WWE Championship respectively. Obviously then, this meant with John and Dave being on different shows, both were in the running for title success as WrestleMania 21 came around, with this being the period that Batista was engaged in one of the greatest storylines of the era as he broke away from his mentor Triple H and began to go after his World Heavyweight title. Meanwhile, as this was happening, over on SmackDown, Cena was rising up the card to the point that he'd become a top contender to the WWE title, then being held by JBL. Seriously, so high were these two rising, there was a question amongst fans about which one was going to be the face of the company going forward, and that question was the centerpiece of the ending to the 2005 Royal Rumble. The ending that saw this pair be the last two left remaining in the ring once 28 other men had been eliminated.
Why? Yo, bro, y'all could not script that any, bro, they literally hit the floor at the same time. Like, I'm telling y'all, it was...
Dave would win this one. It didn't mean John wasn't going to get his shot at JBL regardless. And that led us into the showcase of the Immortals where, in the middle of the show, Mr. Hustle, Loyalty, and Respect was able to dethrone the heel champ. So now that he'd done this, the stage was set for Batista to do the same in the main event and confirm the idea that a new era had begun. And this was something he was able to do easily as it happened, because by the time WrestleMania 21 was over, he'd be standing tall over the game as the new World Heavyweight Champion. That's right, in one fell swoop, the Ruthless Aggression era stars had taken over, and this would fully usher in that new era for fans. But what of the prior era, the Attitude Era? There's yet another classic WrestleMania series associated with this which we haven't talked about yet. So let's look at the trilogy of WrestleMania bouts between Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock. Really, there are few series which are more associated with the heights of WrestleMania than the Rock-Austin trilogy. Why is that? Well, because it's a trilogy which pitted the two biggest stars of the industry's history against one another in 3 separate main events over the space of 5 years. The first of which came at WrestleMania 15 in 1999. That was when Dwayne Johnson, then playing the role of Vince McMahon's corporate champion, put his WWF title on the line against the Rattlesnake.
And it adds to the storyline, right? Now, bro, Rock was the corporate champion. Now he wants Cena to be his corporate. Come on, boy. This is long-term booking at its finest.
And fell to him by the time all was said and done. But this wouldn't be the end of the battles between the pair. No, just 2 years later at WrestleMania 17, following Austin's return from a year-long absence post-neck surgery, the Giants would meet in the main event once more, and this time it would be a babyface versus babyface encounter. Not that it would be such by the time the match was finished though, because this was the one where, in order to beat incoming champ Rocky and regain his title, Steve Austin decided to go to the dark side by turning heel and aligning with Vince McMahon, pretty much killing the turn of the Millennium Boom period in the process.
I ain't gonna lie. Y'all missed the opportunity to do that shit right now. Y'all missed it. Y'all pulled the trigger a little early, bro. Imagine John Cena went heel at WrestleMania in there. Oh, that would have been peak story. Imagine Cena. We didn't get it at Elimination. Imagine the heel turn we did not get at Elimination Chamber. They waited to the night of WrestleMania for Cena to turn heel and win the tie. Rock's corporate chick. Come, bro, what? That's not fire to y'all? That would have been. I mean, what we got now is not. I gotta watch Raw because it came off at 4. I was at work, so today's Monday, March 31st. I was at 4. I was at work. Yo, bro, but come on, bro. That would have been fire, bro.
But even if this ended the boom period, it wouldn't be the end of the rivalry.
Goes to the dark side
2 years later, the pair would meet for a third time at
title.
WrestleMania 19, and while this one wouldn't go on last, it would still technically be
fake
billed as a
babyface
main
John Cena
event.
for a little
Of course, in
longer.
hindsight, it had to be a main event because, while we didn't know it at the time, it would be Stone Cold's retirement match. And that was why this was the one where he finally did the job for the Great One and put him over clean in the middle of the ring, as from there he rode off into the sunset. Which is the best of the 3 bouts? That all depends on who you ask. Whatever side you fall on, it's undeniably a series which represents the best of WrestleMania, just as every other entry we've looked at today does.
Yo, shout out to Wrestle with Andy, man. Definitely one of them ones, bro. This is interesting. Yeah, I can't say her name. God damn it. Damn, why she got 2 M's? Damn, I can't read. What's her name? Ramaya May? Not Amaya, not like, what's her name? Mariah. I was trying to think of Mariah Carey. I'm like, yo, how do you say this name? I'm like, I know this. Anyway, should she leave AEW? Leave in the comments below. I don't know. I didn't even know her contract was up. Honestly, I don't fucking know. Anyway, guys, I'd rather Toni Storm come back. Yo, Toni Storm is saving literally the AEW women's roster single-handedly. I'm jacking that, bro. Toni Storm, Mercedes, 2 people I want to see come back to E. Especially Toni Storm right now, bro. Bro, what? Come on. But anyway, guys, I appreciate y'all for watching this video. As always, subscribe to the channel, leave a like on the video for the boy, and always remember to keep doing your thing, baby, and always make it make sense. I'll see you on the next one. Safety.